California, late 1960s. A killer prowls the Bay Area, targeting young couples in lovers' lanes on picnic dates and cabbies on quiet streets. Nobody was safe. He called himself the Zodiac, and it wasn't just the murders that made him so terrifying. He also taunted the public with letters and cryptograms, leaving an entire city on edge. He wanted fame, he wanted chaos, and he wanted to kill. It all began December 20th, 1968, at a dark rest stop near Lake Herman Road, just outside Vallejo, California. Two teenagers, Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, parked their car for what they hoped to be a quiet date. Moments later, both were shot and killed at point-blank range. No robbery, no sexual assault, just execution. 6 months later, it happened again. July 4th, 1969, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau sat in a parked car at Blue Rock Springs. A man who had been following them approached, shined a flashlight in their eyes, and fired. Darlene was killed. Michael somehow survived and gave police their first real description, saying the attacker was a heavy-set white man around 5'8", estimating the assailant's weight as 195 to 200 pounds, with a large face and curly light brown hair. Not enough to develop a suspect. Roughly 20 minutes after the police arrived on the murder scene, the Vallejo Police Department received a phone call from a payphone 2 blocks from their headquarters.
I want to report a double murder. If you go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway to the public park, you will find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
Weeks later, newspapers across Northern California received letters. Each one began the same way.
I'm the killer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman, and the girl last 4th of July.
Each letter included a different cryptogram that combined together formed a 408-symbol cipher. The writer claimed, "In this cipher is my identity," and demanded the codes be printed on each newspaper's front page, or he'd
cruise around all weekend killing lone people in the night.
This first cipher, known as Z408, was cracked by a school teacher and his wife by correctly guessing the word kill would appear in the message. The first few lines read,
I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill.
Going on to say his goal is to collect souls to be his slaves in the afterlife. All God complex, zero remorse. September 27th, 1969, Lake Berryessa. College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were having a picnic when a man appeared wearing a bizarre hooded costume marked with the Zodiac's crosshair symbol. He brandished a gun and claimed he escaped from jail after killing a guard and needed their car and money to travel to Mexico. Then he tied them up and stabbed them. Brian miraculously survived the attack. Cecilia untied Brian with her teeth and gave the police a description of their attacker before lapsing into a coma and sadly died 2 days later. Before fleeing the scene, the killer drew his symbol on Hartnell's car door with a black felt tip pen and wrote beneath it,
Vallejo, December 20th, 1968, July 4th, 1969, September 27th, 1969 at 6:30, by knife.
Then he drove 27 miles from the crime scene to a car wash in downtown Napa to call the Napa County Sheriff's Department, telling the dispatcher he wished to
report a murder. No, a double murder.
Then, just 2 weeks later, October 11th, 1969, Zodiac struck in downtown San Francisco. He hailed a cab, then shot the driver, Paul Stine, in the head in the upscale Presidio Heights neighborhood. He wiped down the vehicle and rifled through Stine's clothes, but this time there were witnesses. 3 teenagers from a house directly across the street saw the whole thing and called the police. But, in the confusion, the dispatcher mistakenly described the suspect as being black. So when 2 nearby patrol officers responding to the scene pulled alongside a husky white man in a dark or black jacket to ask if he had seen anything suspicious, they hurried away when the man claimed he had seen someone waving a gun heading east. The Zodiac later claimed he was the witness the 2 cops spoke to. The Zodiac mailed another letter on October 13th, now using the famous salutation,
Dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking.
And this time he included a piece of Paul Stine's bloody shirt. He bragged about watching the cops search for him near the crime scene and went on to threaten to shoot a tire out on a random school bus and then kill all the children as they exited. By now, his letters were national news.
School children are nice targets. I shall wipe out a school bus some morning, shoot out the tires, and then pick off the kiddies as they come bounding out.
And law enforcement was overwhelmed by thousands of tips and dozens of false confessions. San Francisco police have investigated an estimated 2,500 Zodiac suspects, and only a half dozen of them were seen as credible by the department, but 3 have stood out. The most prominent is Arthur Leigh Allen, a former teacher and convicted sex offender, who Michael Mageau identified from a photo lineup of 1968 driver's licenses as the man who shot him. He also wore a Zodiac watch, a brand that uses a logo similar to the killer's trademark. Plus, he lived near the first murder sites, and he's the only person named in police reports. But DNA from envelopes and handwriting comparisons didn't match. He died in 1992, never charged. Then came Richard Gaikowski, a Bay Area journalist who worked at a newspaper mentioned in Zodiac letters. Some even said his voice matched the killer's during a phone call recording. Still, no definitive proof. And more recently, there's Gary Francis Poste. In 2021, a group known as the Case Breakers, consisting of former police officers, forensic analysts, and retired military investigators, stated publicly that it had identified Poste as a suspect in the killings, pointing to scars, photos, and alleged links to the crimes. But police say the evidence just doesn't hold up. Other suspects widely seen as viable by professional or amateur investigators include Earl Van Best Jr., Giuseppe Bevilacqua, Lawrence Kane, Paul Dewar, and Richard Marshall. The Zodiac sent 4 coded messages and only 2 have been solved. The first one took a week to crack, but the second one wasn't solved until 2020. Z340 was finally cracked by a trio of amateur code breakers from the US, Australia, and Belgium. It read,
I hope you were having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show. Which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner. Because I now have enough slaves to work for me, where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise. so they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know that my new life as life will be an easy one, and paradise death.
Solved in 2020, over 50 years later, and he's still laughing at the authorities. The last confirmed letter from the Zodiac was postmarked January 29th, 1974. In it, he praised The Exorcist for being the best satirical comedy he'd ever seen. In all, the Zodiac sent 21 letters, including 4 ciphers to Bay Area newspapers. Yet with all that evidence, no arrests have ever been made. Even after half a century, the Zodiac case remains open in multiple jurisdictions. The FBI and California DOJ still assist local police. Modern DNA testing from saliva on stamps and envelopes could be the final key if viable genetic material is found. New technology like the kind that identified the boy in the box and the Golden State Killer might finally unmask Zodiac. But until that day comes, his symbol, the crosshair, remains one of the most chilling icons in American crime. He claimed 37 victims, though only 5 are confirmed. He mailed taunts, ciphers, threats, and even called the police confessing his attacks. Yet he's managed to vanish into history. The Zodiac wasn't just a killer, he was a manipulator, a terrorist of attention, and somewhere the truth still hides. And old letters, DNA samples, with undiscovered witnesses, unknown evidence, or family members who refuse to come forward. So many questions remain. Why did the Zodiac stop killing? Why did he stop taunting the police? Or did he go on killing others under the radar? Maybe he was arrested for other crimes and we just don't know it. Or he is dead and gone, laughing from beyond the grave. If you have any information related to the Zodiac case, please contact the San Francisco Police Department's Cold Case Unit.